you guys hear me okay? I created a slide for you, and I'll tell you a little more about my background. I'm retired from the United States Navy. I was the first Nurse Corps officer to be a Chief Information Officer at National Naval Medical Center, which is now the Walter Reed Army Complex. So my background is a little bit different, and what I will tell you is that I framed my discussion on management and leadership today in that you can be in any position that you want to be. You just won't know what that position is until you get it, and it will just appear before you. And that sounds kind of crazy, but over my, probably as many years as some of you are alive in here, of my career, I have been able to put it into a framework, and I'm going to share with you my framework for building teams and also building your career as you think about it. And that's called the Sports Theory of Leadership and Management. And you can see over here I have golfing, right? How many people golf? Anybody? Golfing is supposed to be the businessman or businesswoman opportunity to get to know someone, and I can tell you that it's an important foundation. So when you're looking for a team and you're recruiting for a team, figure out if that person is somebody you want to ride around in a golf cart or walk all day in the heat with for about 4 hours, okay? So that's the background, but the other important element in golf is that it's an individual sport. You can bring talent, you can bring practice and hard work, but you also create or add to a foursome so that your total score as a team might be very important as you move forward. We see that in ACT-IAC when they do all of the golf tours and championships at ELC. The best ball works. There are bunkers along the way while you're figuring out those teams, right? Because the reality is there are going to be pitfalls, and you might get close but not put it in the hole. So when you're thinking about your team and creating it, you might be looking for someone who has individual talent, but you want to make sure that they match up with your foursome. So the next stage that I'm going to tell you about is I'm a baseball fan. I've always been a baseball fan because when I was growing up, girls weren't allowed to play. We had to be scorekeepers. So I know all about keeping score and doing the things that you have to do. But what I love about baseball is it's a strategy game. There's offense and defense, even though you don't see it, so your pitcher needs to be good, and you might need to move your players around from time to time. If any of you are Nats fans, you'll see they shift to the right, they shift to the left. It's important in looking at your team that you identify which players have more than one skill set. It was about a week or so ago that the Nats went through all of their pitchers because we have a terrible pitching staff right now. And the reality was that they brought in, I believe it was Wilmer Defoe to pitch. It was one of their traditional second base guys. So I put up baseball because I want you to think about the team. And do you have utility players? Do you have people that can play more than one position? If you're recruiting, are you going to ask that person, hey, are they the gee whiz widget specialist and that's all they can do? Well, you might pay too much for that person to be the gee whiz specialist. You might need to look at people who can blend out and help you with your team as you go forward. The reason that I put the Yankees up there is that some people are lucky enough in both in the commercial world as well as government to be able to pick Yankee-style players. They buy success. If I had a big George Steinbrenner, and I know that he's gone and his family had to sell it, but the reality is, if I were the Yankees, I would look to purchase a team that gets me to the playoffs every year. That is a reality. If you're a team leader, are you managing your team against the Yankees or the Pittsburgh Pirates? They might not necessarily be so good, right? So you have to think about where you're from and what you're doing. I like football as well, and I have the Pittsburgh Steelers there, so how many of you can guess where I'm from originally? Bet you know. Pittsburgh, for me, is a good example as you're going through the ranks of your career of managing. And the reason that I say that is in football, you have 12 defensive, 12 offensive players. Pittsburgh is known to be a defensive team. There are other teams, such as, remember, who's the pizza guy? I'm blanking on his name right now. I'll pick Tom Brady. They're an offensive team. They throw, right? You have to understand as a manager and a leader, what can your team do? Do you have other weapons? Do you have receivers that you can play to? You also need to know, again, about money and resources. When you're building a team, do you have enough money to build out a very expensive team with what I would call superstars, like Tom Brady? Or do you have a salary cap in which you need a bunch of no-name players who together make a superstar team? So I try to put these in sports analogies because when you're picking, interviewing, and recruiting day you hope to leave the team as a player and become a manager. And as a manager, you're going to need to remember what it was like not to be picked. You're going to also have to remember what skills were important to someone else. And you're going to have to decide, what is my team competing for? What does my team need to do to get to the playoffs, or to the World Series, or the Super Bowl, whatever it may be? Finally, I want you to think about overall performance and where you may go. There are a number of wonderful government leaders here today who are leading multiple divisions. You might even see a conglomerate CEO. If that's your goal in life, then you need to look across and use someone like the commissioner to think about managing different teams across different leagues who are selling franchise shirts, who are looking to generate revenue. There are different skill sets that you need. So my comment to all of you today is that in the sports theory of leadership and management, I interview my staff related to what they can do as an individual, what they can do as a team member, but I'm responsible ultimately for looking at whether they fit the overall culture, do they fit what we want to accomplish as a business, and that's true in the government or in private industry, and can I manage them? You can have a great player who does whatever they want. They're your superstar. Oh, but you have to do it this way. The book says you have to do it this way. There's no other way. You can't skin the cat any other way. That person really is not going to assist your team in moving to the next level. So I would encourage you in your own career to think about yourself, where you fit into this, and where your teams are going to fit as you grow up the management ranks. And that's really all I have for you today, and thank you very much for listening.